Okay, welcome back. Topic number 5. Topic number 5, or day 5, was with vertex form, right? So I'm just going to write on the top of the paper here. Let's see. Everything that we've looked at so far when we were doing like solving by graphing and solving by quadratic formula and all that stuff, that requires our parabolas to be, or quadratics to be in standard form, the y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. But we also have vertex form, which is what day 5 was all about, right? So vertex form was y equals a x minus h squared plus k, right? And so a couple things to notice, of course, is that they both contain the a, right? So the A, that vertical stretch or compression factor, that is the only thing that these two forms have in common. Notice none of the other letters. Standard form has a B and a C. Vertex form has an H and a K. And speaking of that HK, right, the reason we call that vertex form is because the HK is the vertex, right? Which is pretty awesome if all you're wanting to do is graph the parabola. It is 10 times easier to graph a parabola in vertex form because you know the vertex and you know his vertical stretch or compression. And obviously you could always put them into Desmos and see what those look like, which I'll be doing for a lot of these, just to kind of be checking the reasonableness of our answers. Okay. Just one more thing. Some people call vertex form transformation form because you'll notice it is not a coincidence. If you look over here, right, like for letter C, for example, doesn't that look exactly like vertex form, right? A parentheses x minus h squared plus k, right? You've got an x parentheses with this, and then you have that plus 4. So it's not a coincidence, right, that those two forms look super similar. Okay, here we go. Number 20 says, list the key terms from the quadratic equation below. Do not graph it. Okay, so the first thing I notice right away is the HK, right? I can totally see that the HK is -3 because it's always the opposite number inside, remember, right? And then bring down the -8. So that is our vertex, right? That's the HK. No need to graph. Right? And I can get all this other information just from knowing where that vertex is. So again, the axis of symmetry, I am gonna draw a little picture just really quick, just for a visual, right? So I know this parabola opens down, right? Because he starts with a -4 and not a +4. So I'm definitely gonna, when I sketch myself a little visual, I'm gonna draw a downward facing parabola, and then I'm gonna put that vertex point at the top and label him -3, -8, because every single one of these other answer choices totally stem from that vertex. All right, so here we go. So the axis of symmetry is going to be x equals -3, of course. Is it a min or a max? Well, it's definitely a max because it's at the top of the parabola since it opens down. Now, when it says min or max value, that is literally just asking you for the y, the highest y value of the function, since this was a max. Sorry, I don't like that 8. So literally you are just taking this number and putting it right here. Just like we use the x, right, to find the axis of symmetry, right? The y value is the max value of that function. And then, of course, we have domain, which is all real numbers. And then we have the range, which is y is, and it's opening down, so less than or equal to that max value of -8. Okay. I'm not even going to type it in Desmos because I just don't need to. Now, if you are not 100% sure what the HK is when you look at that function, like, oh, is it 3 -8 or -3 -8 or whatever, then yes, please put it in Desmos. That would be a very silly mistake to miss the vertex, because if you miss the vertex, then you're going to miss all the other 5 questions that are based upon the vertex. Okay. All right. I'm going to do the same thing again one more time. So the vertex, right, I'm pulling out the HK. So I'm going to 1 because it's the opposite of this number. So 1 and then the positive 12 hanging off the end. He's opening up because his A value is positive. So again, I'm going to give myself a nice little visual here with just drawing a little upward facing parabola and then labeling my vertex 112. And then everything else just comes from there. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. It is a min because it's at the bottom of the graph, which means my minimum value is 12 because that is the lowest y value that the graph takes on. Again, voila. Domain, all real numbers. And of course, y for the range, and it's opening up, so greater than or equal to, and its lowest y value is 12. Okay, so pretty easy. We like vertex form. All right, next one says, write the equation of the parabola that has a vertex of -2, -1, and passes through the point -4, 3. Excuse me. And they want you to write it in vertex form. Okay. So they gave you a lot of information here. So they gave you the vertex, which is super awesome. I'm going to write over all this stuff. So isn't the vertex HK? Well, that's really awesome because if they want me to write the equation in vertex form, HK is 2/3 of it. The only thing I'm missing is that A value. So what I like to do, and you don't have to do it this way if you don't want to, I like to go to my little answer blank and just write y equals blank. I don't know the A value, but I'm just going to put a blank there. And then x minus h, so that's going to turn into a +2 squared, and then -1. So this is my answer. The only thing I'm missing is my A value. So that's where I need to go find it by using my equation. And the only thing I have not used yet is this point, which is just some random XY value that exists and is a solution to our equation because it exists on the parabola. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the standard form equation. Again, it's on your formula chart, so you don't have to memorize it if you haven't memorized it yet. And you're literally going to plug in every variable where it belongs. I'm going to color code this just so I don't lose anybody. So that's my y, so I'm going to put that here. And then my x value goes for the x. And then, let me get a different green color. And then my h is going to go right here in for the h. And then my k value of -1 is going to go in here. All right, so you're going to put the x, the y, the h, the k. You're going to plug those numbers in. So here we go. 3 for y equals, I don't know the a. X was -4 minus -2, which changes to a +2 because the double negative. And then -1. And now I have a lovely algebra equation that only has an A, and that's what I'm going to solve for so I can put them in the blank, and then I'm done. Now, the trickiest part about this, and the reason why most students miss this question is right here. Please remember PEMDAS. You have to do parentheses and exponents first when you're solving an algebra equation. And all that mess, that -4 + 2 squared, that is a multiplier sitting behind an A. It is unusual for us to leave a multiplier behind a letter. So when I figure out what -4 + 2 squared is, I'm going to put that multiplier in front of the A. Because it sounds really weird to say like A5, A4, A2, or whatever. So we're going to put it in front. All right. If you're not very good at your mental math, then please type that in their calculator with parentheses. Please remember, if it's written in parentheses on your paper, it must be written in parentheses on your calculator, or you are not going to get the same answer. Okay, so just be super careful. So -4 + 2 is -2, but -2 squared is +4. So I'm going to take that +4 and I'm going to put it in front of the A. And that's awesome because that cleaned it up. And now I just have this very simple little basic 2-step algebra equation where I need to get the A by itself. So I'm going to add the 1 to the other side, which gives me 4 equals 4A. And then, of course, I'm going to divide by 4 to get rid of that multiplier that we just put on there. So A equals 1. I ran out of space. Sorry, I'll put that over here. Boop, like this. Oh, I knew it was going to do that. Now, obviously, you don't have to write the 1. It's kind of understood to be there, but I would totally take your answer, right? Or you could just write it as y equals x plus 2 squared minus 1, right? I'll take it either way. Now, you better believe I'm going to be checking this answer in Desmos. I don't know why any student would not spend 5 seconds of their life after they did all of this beautiful math, right? And check to make sure they didn't make some very silly or careless mistakes somewhere along the way. So I'm going to go type in my answer, y equals x plus 2 squared minus 1. Here we go. Oh, goodness. Hold on. Let me clear that out so I can go back in. Okay. Y equals, oops, parentheses, x plus 2 squared minus 1. Now, how am I going to check this? Well, remember, the awesome thing, hold on. Excuse me. Sorry about that. The great thing about Desmos is not only can I put in functions, I can put in points. So I'm also going to put in both of these points right here, the vertex and the xy. I'm going to go put that in my Desmos. -2, -1, -4, 3. Okay, so -2, comma, -1, oops. And then -4, comma, 3. And the reason why I want to put those in Desmos is because I want them to plot those points specifically for me. So I can actually, I'll hit the little label button too. Why not? Right? Because then I can look and I can see, oh yeah, I did just create a quadratic function that does have a vertex of -2, -1, and it does pass through the point -4, 3. And Desmos is confirming that I did all of my math correct, right? That took me less than 10 seconds to type all that in and double check that, right? Please do that on your test, right? These questions on your test are going to be worth anywhere from 6 to 8 points, right? And that's a lot of points when you can check it and make sure that it's 100% correct before you turn that test in, okay? All right, let's continue. All right, we're going to do another one of those. Write the equation of the parabola that passes through the point -2, -2. So that's our xy, and has a vertex of 0, 4. So that is our HK. Now again, I like to do a little template. Now it does say x, or my vertex is 0, 4. So that means, and I'm going to write this down here, x minus 0 squared plus 4. Now, do you think I want this x minus 0 business? I don't. If you wrote it that way on the test, I'd give it to you because it's obviously correct. It's just not simplified, right? So I am going to clean that up a little bit, right? What is x minus 0? X, right? So I'm going to take away this, and I'm going to take away my parentheses because they're not needed if I don't have anything trapped inside with my x. And then I'm just going to scoochy that over, right? So the only thing I need to do is figure out what in the world this a value is that goes into our function. All right, well, I'm going to do the exact same thing that we just did a second ago. So here we go. Y equals a x minus h squared plus k. All right, I'm going to do the highlighter thing just for anybody that may need it. So the y goes here, right? The x goes here. The h of 0 goes here, right? And then the k value goes here. All right, so we're rewriting. So let's see. -2 in for y. A, x, minus, oh, why did I just write x? Silly me. The x is -2, sorry. Minus 0 squared plus 4. All right, so just like we did on the last one, right, we're going to figure out what this is in the parentheses, and then we're going to put that multiplier in front instead of behind the a. So -2 equals Well, this is just going to give me negative 2 squared again, like I got on the last one, which is 4 plus 4. So negative 2 equals 4a plus 4. All right, then we're going to solve for a now. So we're going to subtract the 4, which is going to give us negative 6 equals 4a. And then we're going to divide by 4 to get rid of that a multiplier, or the multiplier on the a. And I'm kind of running out of room. So a equals, let me erase this question mark, negative 6/4, which of course can be reduced to negative 3/2. And that is the number that goes here in our function. Voila. You know I'm going to check it in Desmos next. Let me put it a little larger. There we go. So here we go. I'm going to go type that in. Y equals negative 3/2 x squared plus 4. Okay. Y equals negative 3/2 x squared plus 4. Okay, so there's our function that we think is our answer, right? But it's only our answer if it passes through the 2 points that we wanted it to. So I remember, I got to go back and look. Okay, negative 2, negative 2. I can remember. So I know my vertex is 0, 4, which it clearly, I can see it's going through that point, which is awesome. And then I want, got to put my parentheses, negative 2, comma, negative 2. And looky there, little red dot, right? It's totally passing through that vertex and that negative 2 coordinate on the parabola. And then I'm like, yay, right? Because it's so simple, right? To check and make sure that we actually created a function that passes through the 2 points that they wanted us to pass through. All right. We've got a couple of multiple choice questions here to finish us up. All right. Now that we've taken the STAR test, well, my Apple Pencil doesn't seem to want to function any longer. Oh, goodness. Sorry, I'm going to check my Apple Pencil. Oh, it's not even connected. Yes, it is. And it has charge. All right. Why are we not working? There we go. Just need a little help. Okay. So number 24, sorry about that. Which function has a vertex at 3, 5? Okay, that's going to knock out a lot of our choices right away. So 3, 5, that means we want a negative 3 in the parentheses and a positive 5 on the outside. So right away, these guys are out, right? Because they have negative 5s on the outside and they should be positive 5s. And then I know that to get a 3, 5, it needs to be the opposite of 3, which is negative 3. So this guy is out as well, which means our answer choice is C. I don't even care about the 5, 13, right? As long as I know the vertex is your HK, then I was able to deduce that it was C just from that answer choice. Okay? If you wanted to and you were not sure about this one, you could totally put all 4 of these in Desmos, and there's only going to be one that passes through both of those 2 points. So you could put the coordinates in Desmos. We talked about this before STAR test, right? So Desmos would totally answer this question for you if you needed to. But again, just understanding the HK logic, we were able to find it pretty easily. All right, number 25, the domain and range of this guy. Now again, I'm just going to do this logically, and then if you want to, I'll show you what that looks like in Desmos if you want to. So the first thing I notice about this function is it opens down. So could I put this in Desmos? Yes, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw myself a little visual of what I know to be true. And then I am going to go pull the HK value from the parentheses, and that's going to give me a vertex of 1761. All right, so it opens down, and it has a maximum value of 61, right? So that's the wall. So we should be able to find the domain and range right away just from that information. So clearly we know the domain is always all real numbers, right? Which completely nixes B and D because they don't say all real numbers, right? That's a pretty easy elimination. And then A says that the range is g of x, which again, remember, g of x means y is everything less than or equal to 61. And that is totally our winner. And look at answer choice C. He doesn't even make any sense because he says x. That's not a range variable, right? Range is y's, right? And so I know it can't be C anyway. So these are some pretty easy multiple choice options, right? They have glaring errors that cause you to eliminate them as options. Okay. All right. I think that is it for topic number 5. Yep. So next video will be topic number 6, writing things in standard form. All right. See you then.